Okay. I want to welcome you to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. Tuesday, October 28th. The Board of Public Works, Edward R. Robello hearing room. I know my colleagues are on their way, but I can just run down the consent items. If you're consent, that means we're going to move to approve. And there are some, like in item number 9, 2 cards that want to speak. You really feel compelled to speak. You're already ahead of the game, so it's food for thought. But item number 3, we are going to move as consent.
Item 3 is a motion. Are we adopting the motion?
Okay. No, let's go through that first. Let's go through that first, but that was going to be my recommendation.
Okay.
So we'll hold on to that, Barbara. Thank you.
I'm awake.
Okay. We do have cards in item number 4 and item number 2 and 4, actually. We have cards, so those are special. Item number 5 are, see no cards, that's a consent item. Item number 6, we will continue to November 25th in Plum and hopefully December 9th in Council. Number 7 is special. Number 8 is consent. Number 9 is consent. But I do have speaker cards there. No? They're pulling it? All right. Give it a lot of thought, right? Thank you. Item number 10 is consent. Item number 11 is consent. All good things. Item number 12, we do have special. And we won't have a report on item 13. And number 14, we don't have a report. So, as we're waiting for my colleagues to appear, perhaps we can recognize the fact that the Cal Bears won.
Thank you, Councilman.
I want to make sure I said that over on the record for Roberto.
Thank you.
And as soon as my colleague, Councilman Huizar, you'll be celebrating together for both former Cal Bear graduates. Just a little bit of housekeeping. When you come up to the microphone, please give us your name and address. If there's something that's been stated, it's okay to say, I agree with the previous speaker, and you can add anything new to your observations. That's also welcome. You can tell I'm speaking very slowly and deliberately because I'm buying time so that we can move on these actions. What we can do is I'd like to invite, for item number 1, Roberto, you want to go through that?
Sure, Councilman. Item 1 is a communication from the mayor. It's relative to the appointment of Mr. Juan Aquino to the South LA APC.
And Mr. Aquino, I don't want to keep you waiting because I know you've been on time. Why don't you come on up because you will be presented to the full council. And I'd like to afford you the opportunity to share a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
And this is your first time to be appointed as a commissioner?
That is correct.
Okay. Want to give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm honored to be here before you. Good afternoon, everyone. A little bit about myself. I grew up in South LA, Vernon Central area. I still live there. My family still lives there. I actually had an interesting career path and educational path. Went to Jefferson High for a year, then transferred to Pacific Palisades. I was one of those that was getting bused over for a better education. From that, I was accepted to the University of Santa Barbara, where I majored in sociology and in Spanish. After that, I thought that I was going to come out and save the world. I was so energetic and passionate about fighting against injustice and inequalities in our neighborhoods. I became a social worker for a year. did a lot of case management. And then after that, I said, well, helping people at the micro level is satisfying, but I think that my mental thinking is more macro level, more big thinking. How can I impact communities on a more bigger scale? So I said, maybe I have to get myself into understanding the legislative process. And so I applied for an executive fellowship program in Sacramento, part of the Capital Fellows program. There, in that capacity, I was working with the Davis administration in Cali, PA, with Romel Pascual, running the environmental justice movement there, implementing regulations for the state of California. After that, I said, well, I'm a little bit too young to actually make this a career now, because I was still very, I just want to see change right away. I don't have that patience. So I said, I think it's time to go back to school, and I went to apply to UCLA, Master's in Urban Planning.
It's a pretty good school, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I graduated in 2006. And now I'm heavily invested in improving the South LA area. And the current capacity what I do now as a consultant is that we consult to various financial institutions to bring investment in low-income areas across Los Angeles. And I'm honored to be working in South LA, and I'm honored to be part of everyone's vision to retransform the neighborhood. And so I want to be part of that.
In South Los Angeles, unfortunately, has not always benefited from all the resources from this great city. That's a pattern that I could support by singling out, as an example, how the different motions from different council members were being responded to. A case example, in one of the corridors, it took them 10 years to do a specific plan. In other places, they're being done within 18 months, 12 months. And so the level of imbalance in how we prioritize neighborhoods in this city is something that hurts the whole region, the whole city. So your sense of optimism and spirit is very much welcome. As a commissioner, is there one particular area of land use and or planning that you find as significant or important that you want to address?
In particular, one thing that you'll notice about South LA is the incompatible land uses across the South LA area. I think that we need to increase affordable housing and transitioning housing, and as well as advocating for more TODs along certain corridors. And that's one of the things that I would love to see as part of retransforming the South LA area. I think there's a lot of potential.
Transit-oriented districts
Right.
is a tool you want to see used more readily
Absolutely.
in South LA. Okay. I didn't want to keep you waiting. I know you'll have a chance to speak before the full council. I'll be asking you similar questions. And my colleagues will be able to vote at that time as well, since they're not here. But it's something that I look forward to. It is relatively painless, but you do have to submit some forms before that vote with the city ethics. Am I correct, Barbara?
I'm not aware if he's submitted his ethics forms. I'd have to review the file, but you should attest to that, did you?
I have.
Okay, then we should be receiving them shortly.
Okay, great.
Right, thank you.
Shakino, thank you so much. It's great to see someone who actually lives in the neighborhoods come back and make a difference and be in a decision-making position as a commissioner. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. 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 Since do you have any idea when my colleagues would get here?
The last time I spoke with his staff, they said he would be coming down in shortly.
Okay. So I'm going to start moving on items as communication from the chair, and then when he gets here, then we can do what we got to do. So that being said, let's start with item number 2. Roberto?
You want to consider item 3 rather, Councilman?
Okay, let's do that.
It's item 3 is a motion Rosenthal Gruel. It's asking the council to accept the design concepts of the Pico Green Streetscape project
Okay. Could you just get a quick summary from the staff? Is staff here on item number
Actually, Councilman, this is an adoption of the motion.
Okay.
It's simply the acceptance of the design concepts, and it's been approved by the public, actually waived by the Public Works Committee. So you can move to adopt it.
We'll do that. Let's move to adopt. And again, it'll be a communication from the chair of this committee to the full council. So we will take that action.
And the next motion, Councilman, would be item 2. It's a motion Labange, seconded by yourself, instructing LAPD and the fire department and building and safety to report to the council on the feasibility of placing a cap on the number of allowed large social events in mountain fire districts. I believe there's a representative of the fire department present.
Okay.
And building and safety.
And building and safety. Can we have the staff come forward and let's just speak to the issue? Is anyone here? Good afternoon, gentlemen. Okay, so we have a directive that seeks to control the number of activities in mountain fire district areas. Have we ever taken it to this point in trying to regulate the conduct or the activities of individuals in areas like this? Is this the first time? Is it something that could be challenged constitutionally?
Please identify yourself for the record.
Assistant Fire Marshal Craig Fry with the Los Angeles Fire Department. Councilmen, members of the committee.
If you can, sir, can you put the microphone closer to you? Or there
Yes,
you go.
sir.
There you go.
Okay.
Much better.
Craig Fry, Assistant Fire Marshal, Los Angeles Fire Department. Yes, we have worked, but not at this level. We've worked within the geographical areas with the different fire stations, the battalions, as well as the police department at that level. We are very limited to what we could do based on the interpretation of the rules and the guidelines given to us by the city attorney on what we can do within a private residence. We do have many concerns, and we agree with the policy and would support the policy, especially in the mountain fire districts such as your district in the Hollywood areas, because of the compromised streets, the smaller streets, the limitations for fire apparatus to get up in there, especially on the during the summer months. What we just saw recently, the fast-moving brush fires. So the need for an issue like this would be very supportive from the fire department side.
Does that create a whole other monitoring layer? Like, who would monitor how often a home is actually having these events? I mean, how is that going to be?
I think what we are looking for, and I hope I'm not speaking for the other agencies, but from the fire department's perspective, is the authority to do something within our within the city preview.
Okay.
And that's what we're looking for, because we are hamstrung. We see the needs for it, but because it's not a business, and because we do not have a business license to go after,
Right.
we are very severely hamstrung. But what we have done is we have worked with the local captains at the local stations more on the nuisance side. But the fact is they are businesses. A lot of these so-called party houses are people who rent these large mansions, these homes, for the purpose of raising money, charging money for people to come in, skirting both building and safety codes as well as fire codes, under the proviso that it is a private residence.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're looking for from the fire department
So
side.
these are patterns that have been determined either by the council office because of complaints or because of incidents that occur during these so-called hotspots.
Absolutely. And I could tell you, speaking for many of the homes in Councilman Weiss's area where they have the beautiful views and they look out over the Hollywood area,
Gotcha.
they really seem to collect in those areas where they can charge hundreds of dollars for people to come into these events. But when we will attempt to apply the fire code in either stopping them or eliminating them, we are very severely hamstrung in what we can do. And I mean, I'm going to speak for the police a little bit because we have had firsthand.
Right.
They're very limited to what they can do based on the nuisance side of it.
Right. I am aware of one place in which they charge $4,000 a week to be able to use that facility for parties and such. So I understand. Any of the other representatives would like to speak?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair and Councilman. Good afternoon. Doug Minson with Councilman LaBonge's office. And the reason that we wanted to come back here today is because since we introduced the motion a few years ago and subsequent to the first time it was heard in committee here, Building and Safety kind of brought to our attention the way that the city of Malibu is approaching this problem, because they have a very similar situation. You got big homes, nice views, a lot of assembly. You bring up an extremely valid and slippery slope point of trying to regulate freedom of assembly in these homes. But what we wanted to do, I think the intent today was, because the council office had learned about the Malibu ordinance after the hearing, through the letter that Councilman LaBonge wrote to your office earlier this month, wanted to just essentially draw that to staff's attention when they're kind of evaluating this problem as to best practices, if you will, in some other cities, how Malibu is handling it, essentially creating a special event process. I think that's something that'll probably be fleshed out once staff takes a look at this, at who the permitting agency is, if it's LADBS, if it's police commission, how it'll be regulated, calling out size, frequency, duration, all that sort of stuff. But we really wanted to just kind of formally, I guess essentially say that in light of the motion that Councilman LaBonge introduced, maybe get creative, see what else is the best practices. Here's one that we're aware of in Malibu.
Gotcha.
And that is...
But it gets the ball rolling.
Gets the ball rolling and might be a little more resilient against legal challenge.
Okay. Sounds good. All righty. Any other representatives would like to speak to the issue? Okay. You concur. See, those are great sentences. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you,
Councilman.
Mr. Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Chief Fry and the LA Fire Department for the work they did last week in fighting the fire in the Sepulveda Pass. It's not just a testament to the fire department and the work you do, but as we discussed when I saw you at the command post, Chief, you personally do an extraordinary job preparing and planning for these fires, which you expect to happen. And when the fire department does a great job, everyone thinks, wow, it's a miracle. They're amazing. They showed up, they knew what to do. And that's true, but it's also because you actually plan for it extensively. And I really just want to say thank you every time I see you. Thank you, Chief.
And just for the record, Madam Attorney, I did want to pose the question to you, and I kind of know what the answer might be, but I want to make sure it's for the record, is what are the constitutional issues of regulating the right of assemblage? We can get the Reader's Digest version.
Sharon Cedar of Cardenas, City Attorney's Office. Well, we know the Constitution has a right to assemble, but I don't really think that's an issue here. The issue here would be the life safety issues and whether there should be, especially in some of these mountain fire districts, limit on the number of occupants on a particular property based upon fire danger and those other things. And so we would definitely take a look at the Malibu ordinance and see what types of constraints they have and how they're trying to regulate it, and see whether it's something that we could adopt for the city of LA.
Great. So that takes us to the directive. If this committee would move, if Councilmember Weiss concurs, move to refer as amended by District 4, so that Building and Safety, Fire Department, and Police Department essentially work on this ordinance and essentially establish this motion. So that would be the directive of this committee. Thank you very much. Okay. All righty. Next, Roberto.
That would be item 4, Councilman. It's a report from Building and Safety and the Fire Department relative to expanding the municipal code to include excess flow shut-off valves, and this is requested by a motion signed Labange.
Okay. Councilor Labange's staff would like to speak to this. Our speaker cards are, let's see.
There's a report from Building and Safety, Councilman.
Okay, let's hear the report first.
Councilmember, did we address the speaker cards on item 2?
There you go. Item 2.
Yeah, there were speaker cards on 2.
I jumped the gun on them, didn't I? Okay, I apologize. Yeah, speakers item 2. My oversight. I want to thank you for making it to City Hall. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, so I appreciate you taking the time. We have with us Phyllis present, and I believe it's Gunther Irdan. I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Please give us your name and address.
My name is Phyllis Present, and I live in the Hollywood Hills. I'm in Mr. Labange's jurisdiction. We have a very large home that was built in the 1990s. The last 8 years or so, it has a new owner who constantly has parties for well over 1,000 people. The last party he had was an MTV event that went on for 4 days. 2 days for loading. Residents were up for 48 hours. I have photographs that don't do it justice. We had no parking signs. There was parking both sides of the street. There were 1,000 people dancing and milling in the streets. They had Jay-Z the rocker. We got no police report. It was our Katrina. And no police came up there. They know how to avoid fire and safety by building low stages. When it comes to the party, there were 1,000 people there. The party ran from 12 noon on Saturday till 3 a.m. It took 2 helicopters and 15 police cars to close it down. That was a Saturday. It went on again on Sunday till the early hours of Monday morning. There were children there. There were rappers in the street. There's foul language. There are drugs in the street. There is sex in the street. There is litter in the street. And despite that, nobody can get up and down those streets. I have photographs. I was hemmed into my house. It was hard to get out of my driveway safely. We have a traffic problem. And besides the usage of the streets, there were 1,000 people there in the street and in the house. There were buses and limos and taxis constantly. And something needs to be done about this. This has been going on for 8 years now. He has on the average of 4 to 6 large parties a year. And in between, just for a change, it's filming. And his parties get him at least 100,000 a night. That's what I heard.
Thank you.
I have photos if you want to see them.
You can please give them to Barbara, our clerk. And again, I appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for your testimony. Next, please.
My name is Kenda Aida. I live in 7811 Electoral Drive, opposite side, 1 Electoral Court. My lot is 49. Would you allow me to bring forward the image of what we experienced?
You have 2 minutes is yours. You can use
very
it the
slightly
best way
to
you
see
can.
what I'm talking about.
Please. I need you to speak to a microphone. Okay. Okay. I need you to
Sir,
speak
you need
into
to
a
speak into the
microphone.
mic. You can leave the pictures, but
There
you
you
have
go.
to go to the mic and make your presentation.
I need you to speak into the microphone. Yes. It's only we need to record your testimony.
With respect, I living on that property since 1975. Not until around 2002, and before slightly, maybe a few years, we experienced an unbelievable experience nights, especially at nights. From the evening to early in the morning, 6 o'clock most of the time. Masses of people, taxis, limousines. It's unbelievable. He had been destroyed almost. But that I meant. Until about in the later stages of the years, I photographed the area to document the truth. It's almost like New York Times Square. The massive people, taxi limousine, going, coming, but 50 feet away from my bedroom, for our bedroom. Unbelievable. The later on, this recently, we had experienced that event where I show you the picture. And it's unbelievable. I don't like to see you people in front of that particular event, or at night, middle of the night. Looking out the window, seeing people behind the trees urinating. Massive of people, 1,000 people marching up there, coming out.
Sir, I need you to finish. I need you to finish.
I'm going.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. I don't know how to end it.
Okay.
We called the police, and they came about 20 minutes later, and they did nothing.
Thank you, sir.
And one night we experienced an experience of climbing. When I phoned up the police.
Thank you.
Immediately thereafter, people climbing the fence going out.
Okay. Well, we are going to direct the City Family Building and Safety Fire Department, as well as Los Angeles Police Department, to come up working with the council office to find a way to monitor and control this. So I thank you for your testimony. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe those are the two cards that were for this item. And we've heard from the council office. So we have made our directions clear to the departments. I want to thank the fire department, our LAPD, and Building and Safety for their cooperation. Okay, Roberto, let's go back to
Item 4, Councilman.
item number 4. So we could, can you go over that one more time?
Sure, Councilman. It's a report from Building and Safety and the Fire Department. It's relative to expansion of the municipal code to include excess flow shut-off valves, and this was requested pursuant to a motion signed Labange.
Okay, we have Mr. Mike Massey on this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Weiss, staff.
Good afternoon.
It's good to see you. It's been a while. I'm here today representing the plumbers and pipe fitters unions in Southern California.
Sir, would you identify yourself for the record?
I'm sorry, Mike Massey, Piping Industry Progress and Education Trust Fund, 501 Chateau SHATTO Place, Suite 200, Los Angeles, 90020. I'm here today representing the plumbers and pipe fitters unions and the contractor associations consisting of over 500 union contractors that work in the piping industry today. We are here supporting the recommendation from the Department of Building and Safety and Chief Barry, Fire Chief for the City of Los Angeles, that the appropriate Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 94.1219 be amended to include language that requires either seismic gas shutoff valves and/or excess flow valves. Now, the reasoning behind this is, as you know, we live in an area that has seismic activity from time to time, but not only that, we all have a responsibility for public safety, and certainly anything we can do to reduce fuel gas fires, explosions, and problems is certainly a community responsibility. We know that seismic shutoff valves are required and they do work. However, they are limited to either a seismic event or some type of shock to the fuel gas piping system. By amending the code as recommended by the Department of Building and Safety and the Fire Department, you'll be adding an extra option to the consumer. An excess flow valve works in a very simple manner. It senses that something is broke inside the system and the gas is on too long, and it simply shuts it down. So to conclude, what you have now is protection with seismic gas shutoff valves, but by accepting this motion and moving it to the full council for approval, you'll be adding consumer and safety and health protection in case of any other type of break in the line. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Does Building and Safety want to add anything else? I'd like to hear the report. And Fire Department?
Good afternoon, honorable council members. Dave Lara with Building and Safety. Actually, the report, as stated, and quite eloquently by Mr. Massey as well, is that we are recommending that both these types of installations may be permitted under the section of the code as stated. It will give that additional protection, and it will also give the public options in protecting their homes. So with that, I'll see if any of my colleague here, the chief, has any more comments.
Craig Fry, Assistant Fire Marshal, Los Angeles Fire Department. We concur with, and we've worked real close with Department of Building Safety on developing this. This is something that will provide public safety, and plus it gives them the option. And when in some of our conversations, what it'll do is actually force prices down, because now it goes from just a single option to other options that will provide safety, which is better for the community, better for firefighters, and just better in general for the city.
So the key word here is either, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
One or the other. Okay. Any questions, my colleague? Okay, we'll move this item and essentially prepare an ordinance. If our city attorney can prepare an ordinance to amend LEMC to allow either seismic gas shutoff valves and or excess flow shutoff valves as satisfying the requirements of LEMC 94.1219. That'll be the action of this committee. Next.
The next item, Councilman, is a report from the Planning Department. It's relative to an ordinance to establish the boundaries for the Wilshire Park HPOZ.
Good afternoon, honorable council members. My name is Megan Hunter. I'm with the Department of City Planning. Before you is the proposed Wilshire Park HPOZ, which is generally bounded by Wilshire to the north, Olympic to the south, Wilton Place to the east, and both sides of Bronson Avenue to the west. Just so you know, Wilshire Park has actually been perhaps one of the easiest HPOZ adoptions that we've worked on, largely because of the community dedication and hard work in terms of outreach. As a result of this outreach, we've actually had no opposition throughout the HPOZ process. Wilshire Park is also unique in that the community drafted their own historic resources survey, which is the first time that this has been done with the guidance of the planning department and also a historic preservation consulting firm. As a result, what was found in this historic resources survey is that the HPOZ is comprised of 527 parcels, 74% of which are contributing. Wilshire Park meets the criteria for HPOZ because of this high concentration of contributing structures of a period of significance from 1905 to 1941, and it's exemplified by the various beautiful arts and crafts, architecture, and period revival architecture in a cohesive neighborhood setting. There is some urgency to get this HPOZ adopted quickly, as there is an ICO over the area that is protecting the neighborhood from incompatible alterations and demolitions. Originally, we had hoped to have a preservation plan adopted in conjunction with this HPOZ, but because of the time frame, we weren't able to do so. So we're also asking that the City Council adopt some interim regulation procedures which would help regulate the HPOZ until the preservation plan is adopted. Therefore, we're asking Plum to recommend that the City Council approve the Wilshire Park HPOZ, approve and adopt the ordinance to establish the boundaries of the HPOZ, and require that the Wilshire Park HPOZ not take full effect until a preservation plan is adopted, so long as these interim regulation procedures are in effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you go away, I do have a couple of questions. About how many meetings have you had in this process, do you think? Guesstimation.
The planning department has had 3 meetings. We had a public workshop, an open house, a public hearing in the community. But the community residents, of which are here today, did door knocking and talked to as many residents as possible and have done extensive mail outs and really have spearheaded the outreach efforts.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Any questions, my colleague? Okay, thank you very much. We do have 2 speaker cards on this item. We have Roberta M. O'Donnell and Stephen Robello. Please come on up, give us your name and address, and just keep your eye on the clock. You got 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Roberta O'Donnell, and I live at 666 South Bronson Avenue, and I'm president of the Wilshire Park Association. And the reason we don't have a whole bunch of our neighbors with us today is because we requested, for their convenience, that we be allowed to speak by proxy for them. So between Stephen and myself, we represent approximately 250 to 300 members of various levels of activity. And throughout the process here, we've met with nothing but support and generosity and help from the city, from planning, from our neighbors, from everywhere. And we've had nothing but just total cooperation. This is really something that this neighborhood wants. We self-funded. We have nothing but the private donations of our residents and a small help from Waha, who helped us with an event. Other than that, it's just all from within the community to fund the whole thing. So we're hoping that you'll support us on this and help us to get our HPOZ passed. Thank you.
Just one moment. Just for the record, WAHA stands for?
Oh, West Adams Heritage Association.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker?
Hi, I'm Stephen Robello. I've been in Wilshire Park since 2001, and I'm a member of the I'm actually the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee and also a member of the Wilshire Park Association. I think to maybe answer some of your questions or implied questions, we began having meetings about 4 years ago. We began to do education, outreach, consensus building, question and answer sessions, and we had them within the context of the Wilshire Park Association meetings as well as special meetings. And we invited many, many speakers from different HPOZs around the city, as well as Ken Bernstein and many, many other people. So we've really done a lot of outreach, and we're really proud of the neighborhood and very proud of the fact that we were able to, so far, be able to pull this off ourselves with great support from our council district and everyone else. So I hope you will support the measure. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, fantastic. And I appreciate the time both of you have taken to express yourselves what you have and complimenting the planning department and the staff. And I want to thank them as well. We don't hear that too often, which is, not a reflection of the department. It's just that you took the time to come and say that, and that I appreciate. So thank you so much. Okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this one? Seeing none, we'd like to move to approve on this item, and that'll be the action of this committee.
And you'll also include the recommendations from planning. I think there were additional recommendations.
Okay, we'll do that as well. Okay. Okay, just one slight detail, folks. Councilman Weiss, if we can reconsider item number 4 to include in the directives planning code studies to join. Number 2? Okay. Okay, item number 2, I apologize. You can include planning code studies to that. You concur?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jack. That's painful decisions.
Council Chair, before we go on, can we get concurrence on the remainder of the items? Because there were a number of items, 1, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 that were on consent or had action.
Right.
If we can get consent on those two, we can go as a report to council.
So we can get a second on that, Councilor Weiss. We move those. That's a big yes. Yes. Okay, Roberto, what's next?
Yes, Councilman, the next item is item 12. It's a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Black Cat as a historic cultural monument in CD 13.
Okay. The last item, folks.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources. This is the proposed historic cultural monument application for the Black Cat located at 3909 West Sunset Boulevard. The subject property was constructed in 1939 in the Silver Lake area and was originally constructed as a Safeway market but has been operated as a nightclub, bar, and laundromat since the early 1960s. It is associated with an important series of events in the history of gay rights and gay rights activism in Los Angeles. New Year's Eve, 1966, 8 undercover officers of the Los Angeles Police Department raided the Black Cat at midnight. This led to a series of protests in the community at the site in early 1967 and also culminated in a court case, a challenge to these arrests that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The demonstration at the Black Cat occurred 2.5 years earlier than the famed Stonewall riots in New York in 1969, and therefore appears to be one of the earliest documented demonstrations asserting gay rights in the United States. The Cultural Heritage Commission found that the Black Cat met 2 of the specified historic cultural monument criteria for reflecting the broad cultural, economic, and social history of the nation, state, or community, and for its identification with important events in the main currents of national, state, or local history, and the Commission recommends your approval.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have some cards on this item, and let's begin with Abraham Chill, Wes Joe, and Elizabeth Bogard Sharkov. Please come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
West Joe, 932 Montman, on behalf of Friends of the Black Cat. Thank you. Many people think gay liberation started in 1969 with the Stonewall riots in New York City. The events at the Black Cat occurred more than 2 years before Stonewall. On New Year's Eve, 1966, vice officers entered the bar. Just after midnight, they arrested 14 men, most for exchanging New Year's kisses with each other. Not a trivial offense. Those convicted had to register as sex offenders for the rest of their lives. Charles Talley and Benny Baker fought their convictions all the way to the Supreme Court for the first time in a cert petition to the court. Their attorney argued unapologetically that homosexuals are entitled to equal protection under the law. The arrest provoked a great deal of anger in the gay and lesbian community. On the night of February 11, 1967, newly formed organizations held a protest in front of the bar and in its parking lot. 300 to 600 persons attended what may have been the largest demonstration ever to be held by gay and lesbian persons in this country up to that point in time. The Black Cat spurred Richard Mitch to start the Advocate newspaper the same year, which eventually became the largest gay and lesbian news publication in the nation. The Metropolitan Community Church, the largest gay and lesbian religious denomination, was founded in LA the next year. And in 1971, the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, now a $51 million a year organization, was founded. The events at the Black Cat were part of the nationwide movement for homosexual civil rights, which in the broader context was and is a struggle for human rights. And they were important events. Both the Supreme Court appeal and the large public protests were unprecedented. In her letter of support, author Lillian Faderman calls the Black Cat protest, quote, the crucial spark that ignited a whole movement. And Mark Thompson, author of a number of books on gay history and culture, notes that the Black Cat bar site is, quote, a primary place where the modern gay civil rights movement began. The Black Cat site is largely unaltered from 1967. A bar still occupies what is basically a large open room. The original sign still adorns the facade, and the parking lot where the protest occurred sits unchanged. The Black Cat gives us perspective on how LGBT persons lived as recently as 1967, about how society changes, and how history can be created in the most unlikely places. Please support the designation. Thank you.
That was really good in 2 minutes. That's a long letter. Great. All right, the next speaker.
Good morning, Council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Avram Chill. I am representing Temple Beit Chaim Chadashim and the board thereof. The address there is 6000 West Pico, Los Angeles 90035. I've been asked to read the following letter. Dear Sirs, and this is from Alexei Romanov. I am providing this testimony to your committee in support of making 3909 West Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles, a protected historical site for the city of Los Angeles. I, along with a straight woman named Lee Roy, established the New Faces Bar at the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Sanborn in Los Angeles in 1965. The New Faces Bar was raided along with the Black Cat on January 1st, 1967. The purported excuse for the raid was undercover police officers having observed two men kissing for longer than was permitted. After disturbing the New Year's celebration at the Black Cat, the police followed the patrons to the New Faces Bar, breaking the collarbone of Lee Roy, believing her to be a cross-dresser, although rather than a straight woman, and beating unconscious one of the bartenders and rupturing his spleen. Both bars were closed down soon thereafter by police intimidation. On February 11, 1967, about 400 to 600 gay men staged a protest at the site of the raids. I was among those demonstrating. We held signs of protest and passed out flyers. It was very difficult to participate in the protest, as openly protesting police aggression against gay men could easily lead to your being beaten, being fired from your job, losing your home, being disowned by your family. Fear of these consequences prevented a more immediate protest, but the protest did occur. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Elizabeth Bogart-Sharkov.
Good afternoon. Elizabeth Bogart-Sharkov, Silver Lake Neighborhood Council Governing Board member. The Silver Lake Neighborhood Council didn't take an official position on this application because many of the board members supported the application financially, and there was a feeling the applicant felt that perhaps these people have to recuse themselves. Nevertheless, as a chair of the Urban Design Preservation Committee, I work with the community for the last 5 years in very close relationship, and I feel very comfortable to testify that the community feels very strongly about the historic significance of this property, and specifically the property in its entirety. The floor plan, the interior, the south elevation, the south street elevation, the east elevation adjacent to the parking lot itself, they are an integral part of the demonstrations and the event which took place over there. People feel very strongly that they should be taken together as a cultural monument, given cultural monument status. So we are very pleased that the Cultural Heritage Commission recognized this, and I urge you to vote on this and support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkov. Anyone here from the council office?
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm sorry I didn't fill out a speaker card. Noelle Hyun, Planning Deputy for Council District 13. We've been involved from the beginning. Mitch O'Farrell, who's our district director, has been involved very closely with the community from the beginning of this application. We support the request to declare the property a monument. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So the report indicates that the property is associated with the civil rights movement of homosexuals and for its association with one of the first documented civil rights demonstration in the nation concerning the civil rights of homosexuals. And to the property is a one-story commercial building exhibiting character, defining features of Art Deco style architecture. So given these findings, I would like to give it the designation as recommended by the staff and move forward on that designation. And that'll be the action of this committee. Okay. Anything else, Roberto?
Public comment, Council.
Anybody here for public comment? See the big wave of people in front of us? No. Thank you very much. Have a good day.